What's up, everybody? Rob Ferretti here, and you know I've always been a fan of exotic and hypercars, right? I love hypercars because it's an exotic car, which is rare, and it has the ultimate level of performance. It's just something that makes you like turn around on the highway to go chase it. The hypercar world was always like a fantasy. It's always been like the goal to be like, one day I'd love to have an F50 or insert anything. And Ferrari just came out, McLaren just came out, all these new hypercars are coming out, and I'm like, I don't really care. And that was a problem to me, and then I had to start figuring out why I don't care. And I guess it's pretty obvious why I don't care, because they're not exciting anymore. And that's a big problem. So Ferrari just came out with the F80. Now, you wonder where the F80 came from, right? Well, you think about it, there was an F40, right? F40 was cool. F50, cool car. The F60 was the Enzo. Then the F70 was the LaFerrari. Now the F80 is the LaFerrari replacement. So they just skipped. So maybe the one after this will be the F90. And the only thing I can guarantee is I probably won't care about that. And it's because they switched to hybrids, right? Like, I love myself like a good sounding car, right? Like, these things sound awesome. It should be the most unbridled excitement you can get as a rich person is buying a hypercar, right? It's something that shows exclusivity, it shows performance, it could do everything under the sun, and it makes you giggle, right? Like, the McLaren F1 is probably the best definition of hypercar because it's worth $20 million because of its capabilities back in the 90s. To be able to perform and still have a level of performance that's competitive today, even to today's hypercars, is saying something. That's a testament to what the car was capable of doing. But now the manufacturers seem to be really focused on hybrids because they perform well, right? Like even F1 is hybrid shit. Nobody cares. And that's the big problem I think we're running into, is that with the W1, which is the new McLaren, same thing. Like, it comes, it hits a news cycle, and I'm like, cool. And it's not that these companies don't know how to make cool cars, right? Like Ferrari, they made the SP1, the SP2, which are the Monzas, and then they have the Daytona SP3. I'm like, great, look at this V12, like almost like a Testarossa, like throwback. I can get behind those, right? If the SP3, the Daytona SP3, if that was Ferrari's new Enzo replacement or new LaFerrari replacement, I think people would have been all about it. And they still make some cool cars. It's just they don't make their hypercars. They don't make their mass-produced cars now. The 296s, the SF90s, they're all going the wrong direction. And I think that's a problem. I used to love, and you guys are much younger than me for the most part, going and grabbing a Car and Driver magazine or any of these, like, new hypercar comes out, it's on the cover of the magazine, I'm buying it. I don't care what, I don't care if there's nothing else in that magazine. I want to read all about that Enzo or the FXX or whatever that new Carrera GT. These cars were very exciting. The LFA, all these cars were very, very impactful and exciting. And when you start saying, like, well, we're all about performance, we have to go and add a hybrid system, that's where you lost me. And even GM now, they've got the ZR1, right? At least they didn't go hybrid. And they said, we're just going to put a whole bunch of horsepower in it. We're going to take this cool Corvette, which I got one in the back there, and we're going to strap some turbos on it, because that's what everybody seems to do in the aftermarket. So we're going to strap some turbos on it, make 1,000 horsepower. Just did 233 miles an hour the other day, which is fast. Like, even the W1, which is the McLaren P1 successor. So it's F1, P1, W1. Just there's reasonings behind that. I don't know what it is. But you start looking and you're like, all right, it tops out at 217. Like, and it's no surprise to me that the ZR1 can do, I mean, the wing is big, but there's no surprise that the ZR1 can do 233 because you have a whole bunch of horsepower. You take do I have a C4 Corvette here? I don't. My C5, I mean, you throw enough horsepower in anything and the gearing is there, it'll go that fast. My Supra up there has done 215 miles an hour, and that's because I had to start braking. And so it would have gone faster if I kept riding it out. So It's not hard to make a car go really fast. It just needs horsepower and gearing. But the fact that these manufacturers now, all the hypercars, all the new cars, it's not that I don't care about cars anymore. It's just that the cars that exist and the future cars that are coming out, I have to focus on the cars that exist, right? Like there's a bunch of these cars in here that I would take over even a P1. And I know it's going to sound stupid, but like a cool, like the Speciale. Like over a P1? Sure, Speciale. It's still going to be worth a lot of money. It's great to drive. It's exhilarating. My Ferrari over here, the 458. Yes, the P1's worth more money. But if you weren't concerned about the value of the car, if you didn't care strictly about what it's worth, and you cared about like what it costs to repair, how it makes you feel when you drive, what it looks like, how many of there are out there. The Corvette's a perfect example. And I told you about this Corvette. These cars used to be worth pretty good money, 30 grand over list and everything like that. And I'm like, wow, just wait till they're all over the place. And you know what? Now they're all over the place. I always said the Corvette's biggest problem is going to be when you see them all over there. You'd see it coming around down the road. And you're like, whoa, what's that? Oh, it's a Corvette. And at first it was cool, but now there's a trillion of them out there. Supply has caught up to demand, and I'm actually getting rid of all my base Corvettes, and I'm just going to stick to the Z06s, which I just ordered another one, which should be in probably in the next couple of weeks. I got a white Z07 package coming in. And then my other Corvette order that I have for myself, I'm going to move to a ZR1. I will rent them both out until I figure out which one I want to keep long term, and I will buy whatever of those vehicles off of my own rental company when it comes to that time. The Uruses, same thing. Like these things were big money. People didn't really want them. Now, then next thing you know, COVID money came out, everybody wanted them. But you start to see them all over the place. They're producing a lot of them, and that takes away from the appeal. But hypercars are designed to be exclusive, and hypercars aren't necessarily, you have to think more Pagani, right? Pagani doesn't care about winning the race. They're making art, and that's really the only, I want to say Koenigsegg too, but Koenigsegg is getting involved a little bit in the technological aspect of the ultimate performance. But Pagani just says, like, we are going to make beautiful cars. Well, he doesn't say it in English because he pretends like he doesn't speak English. But we make beautiful cars. You translate this into Italian. They're going to sound good, and they're going to be very fun to drive. That was my Pagani. And that is all we really need. The guys with money, the guys that love cars, it stops there. And that makes all these other cars ultimately more valuable in the future if you stop making exciting cars, right? You could make a fake vacation and say like, oh, why go to Europe when you can just simulate going to Europe by bringing it into your backyard and doing a VR exhibit? That's not the same. And I think the automotive industry is going to sort of keep going in that direction until the demand starts drying up and people start saying like, you know what, I don't really want that. Like, I don't care how fast your Tesla goes. It's good to get around, but it's not my sports car. And if I'm paying for enjoyment, and I'm okay paying for enjoyment, but it's got to be something enjoyable. And I think Ferrari's missing the mark, McLaren's missing the mark, everybody's missing the mark going and focusing on these hybrids. And I get it, like, you want to say you got 1,500 horsepower, you want to be competitive, but they're sort of going in the wrong direction. At least Tennessee went and put the manual gearbox in their car, and they're like, look, we're going to have the fastest manual out there. Like, if you like the car, if you don't like the car, it doesn't matter. I like the approach. And that's something I would sooner get in the Hennessy than the W1 or the F80, which I think is ugly to begin with. But stop making hybrids. Like, I'm speaking on behalf of the automotive world. So, like, if I'm wrong, then I'll be wrong, and I'll just be the old crotchety guy throwing batteries at kids walking on the street. But I think I'm right. Thanks for watching. See you next time.